Yes, I know that historically there's only been the ability to have one guest interview, though we're having some new features rolling out and we're hoping that we could have more than one person on here today. Like maybe that isn't possible. Um, so maybe we can just do one at a time now to make sure. All right, so Lois is back. Hi, Lois.
Yo, yo.
The only one that's able to come on. I'm gonna have to boot you out, and I will just bring each of us on one by
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And
See if you could try to add one more now and see if that works. I know it's a new function with Instagram, so they may be buggy on their end. Who knows?
yeah, I think there's a buggy on their end because it says I can't.
Yeah.
So
You could always do like a few minutes with each person, and then
that's I can. All right. Well, you're here, uh, and we'll cycle through. We're rolling with it again, as always. I appreciate all of your patience in there. Thank you, everyone, for your support. So,
and
um,
then I would say if Gabby is able to request to join and see if it works, then yeah,
that's
bring it in.
have I have my team here trying to troubleshoot behind the scenes to see if there's anything else that we can do. So it blocks the thing. Anyway, so you've been such an integral part. I can't appreciate your help and your support more. So everyone knows the reason why I'm inviting the three particular people that I have on my invite list here today, even though you're of course only seeing one lovely face right now, though the other two will jump on second, is because I think you guys were the earliest readers of my
Mhm.
book. And so graciously offered some words of support. So anyone who has the book, they so graciously endorsed on the back cover, and that's why I invited you here today. So as an early reader of my book, I have to say, Lois, I'm feeling like I know I talk a lot about validation and not requiring validation, but I'm ready to hear how the hell my book is being experienced
I'll
by
tell you what.
loved ones and my team. So talk to me.
I'm I'm jealous because I wish I could write a book this good. It's freaking unbelievable, and there's not, in my perspective, there's not one thing that you didn't dive into that each of us get to look at. And this book won't, not every part of this book will be for everyone at each stage of their life, but something will be for everyone right now. And it is just, it's so well written and it's so well researched. And I just love the holistic approach to it. You know, there's a lot of different modalities of therapy, like I was mentioning before, but you're like saying there's not a one size fits all. And here's how you could apply multiple different modalities to a holistic approach to what you're going through right now. And the concept of constantly in the process of self-healing, whatever that looks like for you. I'm 37. Yeah, I'm gonna be 38 soon. And I felt like I did a lot of healing 8 years ago, healing 4 years ago, and there's still more healing now that I'm discovering about myself that I get to continue to work on. And I'm not sure if you think there's ever going to be a time where we're healed and everything is fine and we're like, okay, we've got it all figured out. We don't need to do the work anymore. I'm assuming it's going to be for the rest of our lives based on new seasons and stages of life, based on, okay, now there's new family dynamics. Now we're entering a new career stage. Now we're dealing with health challenges, whatever it might be. Now someone close to us passes away and we've got to deal with different traumas that we're dealing with. And so for me, again, if you have not pre-ordered 20 copies of this book yet, I'm telling you, you're going to be a hero to all your friends and family and team members at your work by getting them this book. You will be a hero, a champion, if you do this, because there's just so much wisdom in here that is practical that people can apply. And it's fun, it's interesting. I love your humor that you bring to it also, which is like, I don't know if people know how funny you can be, but in your writing, you add more of that to this. So for me, again, it's an amazing. It's going to be the book of the year. I'm telling people right now, this is the book of the year. I said this to Jay Shetty last year. I was like, Jay, your book is going to blow up. It's going to be the book of the year, and I think he sold 1 million copies. And I'm not setting expectations here because we don't want an expectation hangover. But I just know that whether this sells 50,000, 500,000, 5 million, this will be the most impactful book of the year and many years to come. And you want to be sure that you're one of the first people to get it. So I am excited for it. I know your community. I've been following your community. They have been actively begging for it, buying it, pre-ordering it. So make sure you guys get How to Do the Work if you haven't done it yet.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I talk about hangover. I'm probably gonna have an emotional after all of this. There's just been so much coming up, though. Hearing, how integrated the framework feels to you upon reading it is so important to me, because I feel like we've had an incomplete knowledge. Me as a
Yeah.
human, my old self as a practitioner, I just kept coming up against disempowerment, unable to really create change in my life, unable to really help model change, therefore, for those that I was working with. And I really understood now why. And so obviously in the pages, I see a couple of you asking the name of the book. It's called How to Do the Work. Recognize your patterns, heal from your past, create yourself. Because yeah, I do believe that we can create change at any time. So to speak to your point, we are a walking evolution, us humans. I think for a lot of us, it's so uncomfortable to understand our ever-changing nature, that reality,
Mm-hmm.
to live and embody that. It's a hard-ass thing we want done. And I'm the number one person, and my joke always is, if anyone has found, right, that utopian place of doneness where all of my boxes, I love checking boxes, are checked, please let me know the direction, meet you there. And until then, I think we're all kind of sitting in that mess of just learning how to be, shift
Yeah.
that checking of boxes mentality into just embodying ourselves and the reality that we will always change and evolve.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious for you. I've been just doing a lot more reflection on self-healing in the different areas of my life that I get to continue to grow and improve on. When we have a challenge in our life, whether it be in a career relationship, a intimate relationship, a family dynamic, or just a level of doubting ourselves or comparison to something else, do most of our internal um, pain and internal triggers come from
Us, or we experience it as violating, then obviously the feelings wrapped up around that are coming from that more intuitive space. Though that the goal, I think, is to become so connected to ourselves and our intuition to know the difference. Because a lot of us, when the feeling is really big, chances are it is a remnant, a very real remnant. And that's what when I talk about, when I urge us all to make room for that feeling, not to just invalidate ourselves because it feels like a
mm-hmm,
quote unquote overreaction, because in reality it isn't. It was a very warranted reaction at a time that never was able to be fully expressed. So the goal
mm,
is obviously to make space for that reaction, but also to be able to dig down and understand if there is that deeper piece that you're bringing up.
yeah. And I know you've been, obviously for my audience that hasn't followed Nicole, make sure you follow her and listen to the interviews we've done and stuff like that. But I know you've dealt with a lot of different traumas, from family stuff to traumatic experiences and relationships in the past. And I'm curious, based on all the modalities that you've practiced and studied and applied to your life, what do you feel like is the one thing you couldn't live without? Is it breath work? Is it the writing the pages, journaling? Is it, some of the type of healing modality? What is the thing, if you can only do one thing for yourself? My cat just joined the conversation.
Love
Uh, if you can only do one thing for yourself, what do you think has been the most powerful? Obviously, it's a holistic, total approach, but what's been the most powerful for you in the last couple of years?
I had a big smile as soon as you asked the question, because I already knew my answer, because I go on and on about this, what I believe is a foundational practice. And I appreciate the question, Lois. It's the practice of consciousness. the practice of learning how to first embody ourselves in a safe way. So many of us, all of our, typically our way of being becomes a coping mechanism of disconnection, of, you brought something else up earlier, of self-betrayal, of all of the ways we show up that aren't maybe authentic to ourselves.
How do we betray ourselves on a day-to-day basis? What does this look like for people, from big B betrayal and little b betrayal?
It can look either of those. I mean, some of us betray ourselves in our just habitual way of being. We're not honoring maybe our individual body's unique needs in any given moment. Maybe for a lot of us, and I'll just speak from my own lived experience, we have no idea how to even begin to navigate our emotional world. So we might be emotional self-betrayal. So disconnected, maybe, if you're like me, living life on a away from our emotions, that we're not actually giving them light of day or the ability to self-express in that way. So for a lot of us, it looks all different. Though I do believe a lot of us are conditioned to be separate from ourselves in one way or another. And then we flash forward many years of time, and we become an adult that either is so just deeply dissatisfied but doesn't have like the reason why, or maybe we've accumulated a lot of medical, psychological diagnoses along the way. I believe if we want to dive into the underlying cause, it's typically an imbalance or a self-betrayal in one of all of those areas. My physical
Yeah,
self, my emotional self, or I think the more elusive being, that spirit self. How do I just express? How do I even know what I am and who I am and how I am in the world? Because the large majority of us don't, because we've not practiced. We've practiced being a pseudo self or wearing a mask, playing a role instead of just being.
right. I want to ask you, I want to be respectful because I know there's two other people you're going to bring on here. So maybe I'll ask one or two questions and then let you bring the other two up so they're not waiting the whole time. This question I want to ask you before I do, I want to be your ultimate hype man. If you guys have not pre-ordered the book, I'm telling you, go pre-order this right now on Amazon. You're going to be a hero if you get multiple copies and give them to friends, because it's going to truly help people, give them the tools to transform and heal their lives. So make sure you get How to Do the Work right now and pre-order this. You mentioned the tool of consciousness and awareness is the main thing for you that you couldn't live without, the main thing. How do we learn how to even just get into consciousness awareness? Is that, okay, 10 minutes of I'm going to think and feel how my body is feeling and thinking. I'm going to do a practice. I'm going to just be. What does that look like for people that have no idea what being consciousness and awareness is? How do we start that?
I think a lot of us get really overwhelmed by the idea of the practice, which initially comes to mind when we think of consciousness, of meditation. We think we have to carve out that time to go sit maybe quietly in a room and maybe face the onslaught of our thoughts that are incredibly uncomfortable. So for those people, there's actually ways that we can create consciousness. That's, of course, one way to create consciousness, where I sit quietly, where I learn how to be a witnesser or an observer of my thoughts, and then therefore how to turn my attention, how to unhook my attention once I realize it's focused in my thoughts or in my inner world on my physical body, using maybe my breath as I'm meditating.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of us, like I offered, that can be incredibly overwhelming. Even the act of sitting still in our own skin can make us feel unsafe, activate a trauma reaction of a past time when maybe we were unsafe in our own being given our circumstances. So for those people, and this is actually how I began my practice of consciousness, I made it a point throughout my day to pick one moment to be conscious. I would set an alert. I'm pointing to my phone that usually sits over there, but I'm on today. My phone. I would set an alarm on the device that I walk around with, that most of us do. And it began with just one moment for a random time during my waking day. And when my alarm went off, my first test or my first question was, where's my attention? I just noted naturally, what was I doing? What was I paying attention to? I noticed that pretty consistently, I was never paying attention to what I was doing. I was typically lost in thought.
What do you think about? You mean the
I
anxiety
love,
around
while I
something?
love to rehash things that happened in the past, I really prefer to worry about future events that could happen. So I would be worrying about the thing that I had to do when I get home, or worrying about the event that I have tomorrow that's stressing me out. Sometimes, Lois, it was undescribable. I couldn't actually tell you where I was. That's why I termed it my spaceship. I don't really know what I was doing up there. I just know that once that alarm went off, I mean, sometimes it would be shocking. Oh, okay, where am I? I'm here. I mean, that's silly, but I think a lot of us out there, I'm seeing some resonance in the comments. So in that moment, I learned one thing that's very important. I wasn't conscious. So anything that was happening in that moment was likely driven by my very powerful subconscious that stores all of those habits and patterns. So the second part, then, we want to learn how to flex our consciousness, which is actually a different part of our brain entirely. So in that moment, when I did notice that I was somewhere else, I resisted any and all urges to judge myself, as a lot of us do. Our Nicole again, worrying about something not helpful, right? Habit, that's another habit that I think can all afford to break. And then I began to, almost like we're lifting weights, I began to flex, like I said earlier, a different muscle by refocusing my attention. So this felt a little less threatening than just sitting with my breath on whatever it was I was doing, right? On the sensory experience of what I was doing. Say I was eating a meal. That's a great time where we all like to dissociate somewhere else. I might just fully taste what I'm eating. Say I was reading and one of those, my eyes were glazing over and I'm not really taking in the words that I'm reading. I would focus visually on what I'm seeing, touching the book at hand. So in that moment, if we can bring our full attention to our senses, that helps us come into our body. And then on the moment, of course, I built many more moments. That one alarm, 2 turned into 3, turned into our goal being living life consciously, because it's within that conscious state. And this is why I talk about it being foundational, that we're activating the part of our mind that grants us choice. We're begin to now make new choices outside of the old reactions that my subconscious is nipping at the bit, right, to elicit in that moment.
And what are we saying to ourselves when we are rehearsing and going over and judging the past consistently throughout the day and worrying about the future? What does that say about us when we do both those things at the same time, as opposed to focus on the moment?
Chances are it probably says that the moment at some time in your life was unsafe and that there was value and protection. I view all of these conditioned patterns. I mean, one of the subtitles, recognize your patterns, heal from the past. All of that I view as an adaptation, as our best attempts, given very compromised environments, as some of us are within, at creating safety. So to those people who struggle to be present in the current moment, it's typically because at a time and a place, that moment wasn't safe for you, given what was happening, and or your age, again, around which it was hard for us to tolerate or to cope with that amount of stress without the appropriate parent figure to help us, to help literally at even the deepest level, our nervous system de-escalate, go from an activated stress response back down into calm. So what that says to me, anyone who's resonating with this, who lives on a spaceship or who does a million other things that we do to distract ourselves from here and now, that says to me that, again, there's probably was some lack of safety in a past or even in the current, in the here and now. So we really want to cultivate not only embodiment, but safety. We want to now empower ourselves that it's okay to be in our body. And should, even going back full circle to our conversation, should a violation occur now as an adult, I can confidently keep myself safe. I can put up the boundary. I can move this person or remove myself from this person or this experience in a way that I couldn't at one time.
And do you think it's possible for us to fully accept and love ourselves and fully accept and love the people we're in relationships with, unless, do you think it's possible to love and accept ourselves and others if we don't heal the past?
I think that we carry with us and we keep, separate from us all that we feel shameful around, or all of which that at some point circumstances didn't allow that expression for whatever reason. So until we're full, until we care for our own needs, it really is hard to give someone else that gift.
We carry it with us. Yeah.
Us.
Wow. Again, I'm going to be your ultimate hype man. If you guys haven't pre-ordered the book, get How to Do the Work. It was going to be the book of the year. I'm calling it now. I could sit here for another 3 hours and talk to you, but I want to be respectful of the other 2 people that are coming on. So Yeah, if there's anything else you want from me, I'm here to support you. I'm
You.
telling people this book is amazing. You're going to want to read it over and over again. But I can't wait to hear what to say what Gabby and everyone else has to say too. So I want to respect the conversation.
Thank you. I
Of
appreciate
course.
that, sharing your time. I'm bummed that we couldn't have had a group conversation, though.
I
Of
know. We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
course we will, many times. All right.
Appreciate you. I'm excited to talk soon. We'll have you on soon.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Let me see how I'm going to do this.
Probably have to boot me off.
I'm going to boot you off, remove you.
Get the book. Get the book.
All right. And now I'm going to re-invite Gabby before I unveil our final request. And thank you. You know who you are out there, Carlin. I'm so sorry. Next. Okay, so Gabby Bernstein, again, New York Times bestselling author of so many books, including her last one, The Universe Has Your Back. I am honored to be sharing space with you. How are you?
Babe, something is glitchy. Okay, hang on. Where are you? You can see me, right?
I don't know if you see me. Do you hear me?
I see you. As long as you can see me, Instagram is
I see you. Amazing as always.
What's up, baby? How you doing? I'm your hype girl. By the way, I'm staring at something really weird is going on with Instagram. So I'm staring at the request, but I know you can see me, so I'm just gonna go with it. All right.
Also saying that you are seen, so I don't.
Okay.
A little bit glitchy.
I don't need to see myself. All I need to see is you. That's all that matters right now. So if Lois is your hype man, I am your hype woman. From the moment that we met, I said to you, send me that galley, like send me the PDF. I need this book, because what I find to be so extraordinary about you as a teacher is the beautiful way that you demystify and translate very heavy topics in a way that is resonant with someone who may have never touched on these topics before. And the reason that I am your hype woman for this book, and I will be behind you every step of the way as you launch this beautiful gift into the world, is because so many of us everyone's suffering right now. Everyone's trauma with a big T or a little t is kicked the fuck up right now. And not everyone can afford to work privately with a therapist or a coach or a healer. And this book gives the reader the guidance that they desperately need right now. So, bravo.
I so appreciate you saying that, Gabby. One of my goals from the moment I set foot on Instagram was to translate some of this into the practical. I know for a lot of us, a lot of some of these concepts might not be new. This idea of ego, the subconscious. I think maybe many of us even have done a lot of reading on some of these topics, though what I consistently saw, not only in myself, but in the many different types of clients that I would work with. Oh no, we lost her. Lost Gabby. All right, I'm re-inviting her. Seems like she popped off. That glitch finally glitched her right away. Though I will just continue to wrap around that idea of practical. Like I was saying, a lot of these concepts have been spoken about.
I'm back.
Cool. So I was talking about practical, and I'm really happy that my work comes off as practical, because like I was saying, a lot of these concepts have been theorized, there's been books written on them, but what I continue to see in myself and individuals of different levels of insight and awareness, working in all of these different organizations I've worked at, is we all struggle to build the bridge from knowing into doing, from concepts into action.
Yep.
So something I've always, and if you would have heard me describe myself back when I was working in my talk therapy practice, that word practical always kind of snuck in. And
Right.
I would always advertise is the work we're going to do here is talk about practical ways to translate, what we talk about in session into outside of session. However,
That's your gift.
what I was lacking back then was the full comprehensive formula, in a sense. I was only working from the top down, as we say in the field, right? Tinkering with the mind, learning new ways to think or reframe problems with this idea that then our feelings and our behavior would change. And yes, there's a whole chapter in my new book, How to Do the Work, about the power of thought, the power of that top-down process to create change. However, the foundation of my book also is acknowledging the role of the body, the role of our physical self, which I saw time and time again in my old practice was often that stuck point. No amount of positive thinking would help us create that change. So one of my goals now is priding myself on translating these concepts, the wholeness of it, the holistic work, into practical daily tools. And that's why at the end of each chapter, obviously you know this, Gabby, but for listeners out there, the chapter each chapter presents the concepts, and then at the end of each chapter there's the do the work section, the how do we translate this, whether it's a journal prompt or a consciousness practice or a breath work practice, the essentially what do we do next.
Yep. Right. Which is what I was saying, you know, it is your gift that you can demystify and translate. And I don't know you in your private practice, but I know you in your public practice on Instagram and through the book, that I want to really acknowledge someone who has been in that deep dive of trauma recovery, that you have done the work to really explain to us in this book how our psychosomatic condition is reflected from these past experiences, how we can undo those behavioral patterns, but not just the behavioral patterns, but the energetic disturbances. Because what you have nailed here is not just here's your quick fix, but here is your solution. And mama, that's where we're at. We are not, there's no more playing small here. We have lived through hell and back in this past year. All of our stuff has been brought to the surface. And now this is when people can get to work through this book. So you are coming in right on time. Right on time. But the other cool thing also is just sort of as like trauma recovery nerd, and like you're talking about epigenetics, and like you go deep into CBT, and like it's just really, really special to see you take these big ideas and theories and make them accessible and understand and easy to understand. That's just what I'm going to keep coming back to. I mean, I'm just so grateful for that.
I appreciate
So cool.
I appreciate that so much. I was actually on your page the other day and I was seeing a recent video you did about, believing, and we can put out, thoughts, intentions in the world, but if the deepest part of ourself isn't, in emotion and belief of that thing we really are. And, I think that encompasses that deeper recess, that subconscious, all of the things that continue to keep us stuck, sometimes unbeknownst to us even, and maybe even more frustratingly when we know. When we
Right.
know, some of us, we know those deep wounds. We know the unworthiness feeling that we carry, yet we can't, right, create change in that area. And something that I go back to all the time when we talk about the practical application of change is really honoring the process of it, right? A lot of us, because a lot of us are, whether it's, activated given COVID and all of the insecurities that many of us are experiencing now, we're uncomfortable, and some of us drastically so, and we need life to change, immediately, if not sooner. Though, something I come back to often is change is a process. We're actually so protected, keeping ourselves in these familiar, because for our subconscious, our familiar is our safety zone.
Yeah.
And if none of this is logical, even if our safe zone is unsafe in a lot of ways, to our subconscious, that which is unsafer always is the unknown. So those of us that have all of these awarenesses, right, and are trying so desperately to create those daily actions will consistently come up against what I call resistance, the subconscious's natural preference to stay in those familiar ruts. So it's harnessing, right, that awareness that we don't actually want to change as humans. So how can we still create change nonetheless?
But also really, in the pursuit of creating that long-term change, one of the gifts that this book has provided, and all of the work that you do, is really helping us in our adult resource self nurture our inner child, which is like no small thing. And often you would expect that that work can, only begin when you're in a one-on-one session. But what this book has offered is this, how to create boundaries, how to advocate for yourself, and to hold space for that child part that can't necessarily change overnight, but needs to learn how to rely on the resources that we do have as adults. And so I just, I can't say enough good stuff about this book. Boundaries was that was a chapter that I thought was like so killer. Do you want to just speak a bit about that chapter, or anything that wants to come through for you right now about it?
I'm smiling, really, really, really big hearing that, because it's the boundaries chapter is really big for a lot of us. For some of us, it might be really surprising to even hear the concept itself of limit. I think a lot of us are conditioned in many frameworks and many belief systems, sometimes even culturally, to operate, to live without limits whatsoever in our lives. So for me, I didn't even understand the concept of boundaries or really know what it was, to even realize at its lack of presence, I didn't have any until I was well into my probably 30s even. Mm-hmm. I really understood, I can create a separation. I am a different human physically, emotionally, and spiritually than those around me. And I can learn how to safely, again, inhabit that space, and then obviously translate that safety to someone else, creating the for them to then honor their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs as authentically for them. So boundaries is that elusive thing. It's a very difficult new process, new behavior for many of us. Though, again, I spoke to Lois about consciousness being foundational. We'll learn that when we dive into us as we relate as interpersonal beings, essentially us in relationship, many of us will see, I'm seeing a couple people in the comments already saying, yes, boundaries. Many of us will see the need for those limits. So I'm happy that you found the boundaries chapter helpful to make that good and practical. I even include it. So for any listeners out there who are like, yes, boundaries, I need them. I don't know. I don't have them. How do I create them? I take us through the process of boundary creating, setting new boundaries in our life. And I even include some scripts. How do we communicate our boundaries to others? So I think that can be incredibly helpful. Here's me advising everyone, don't expect it to be comfortable. Don't expect the words to come out comfortably. I know for me, I call them my feel bads. I clench up still at times in the moments where I know I need to set a boundary, because there is that really powerful pull where I feel I'm being selfish. I feel that to be a good person, I need to show up fully in service of other people at all times, even when my needs aren't or even when my resources aren't available to do so. So even in those moments, the space I've now learned to create is to acknowledge that my resources aren't available. I'm good and set on that. I can't, though the second I go to think I can't and communicate, I still have those feel bads.
Right. And knowing the difference, knowing how to get back into a resourced place before you set that boundary. And that's what's so beautifully laid out here, to understand when you're in and when you're out, and how to care for yourself. And, I want to give space for the final speaker, but I just want to thank you for not leaving the body behind, because there's so many, particularly in a book, right? Doing somatic work is something that often we think has to be done in a one-on-one situation. But to really address the body, the nervous system, and our energy, not just intellectually, but through practice and through the work, I keep, wanting to come back to the work, is such a gift to us, because it's the thing that I think people really miss. And it's something that for me, even in my practice as a spiritual teacher, until I remembered my childhood trauma, I wasn't even conscious of the somatic work that had to be done, because I was so disembodied. And so giving voice to the body, giving the gift of guidance, and even just for those of us that have experienced dissociated experience memories and being disembodied, as I said, to start to just even acknowledge that the body may be disconnected is such a tremendous gift to us. And I want to thank you for not leaving the body behind.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for sharing your experience, very similar to my own. I left my body behind in my spaceship for so many years. My whole first beginning of the journey was safely embodying myself. Then it evolved into learning my body's cues. I was in my 30s and had no idea what hunger really felt like, what full really felt like, when I felt clear and when I felt not clear in my brain. It was hard for me to connect with all of those spaces and feelings. Now I feel very attuned to my body and its cues. However, now I'm on the journey of feeling good about my body, because now it's okay. Now I'm here, I'm in here, I'm safe. Like, do I like it? What do I feel about it? And that's another whole stage of, I think a lot of people are, resonating with, to accept even one's body then becomes, I think, the next stage of it, especially when you're living disembodied. And we have all of these self-love movements, and I even talk about that, learning how to love ourselves. Love for me is acceptance, full acceptance. And if you're disembodied and feeling unsafe, you probably don't feel very acceptant of your body, because for a lot of us, we've probably been seeing and living our body's reactions that might not feel so positive, might even feel shameful. So that's why I explain the physiology, all of that subconscious world, and how our body really is a machine that's reacting and adapting to everything that it's experienced. So anyone that's carrying the shame around bodies, again, know that that's part of the journey. Chances are you're like me, to embody safety in self. And then it's another journey of how to accept that which you see and experience once you're embodied. So thank you
Yep.
for hearing
Yep.
that.
I just think you've done such an amazing job, and I want everyone to go buy this book. And I'm going to be referring this book forever, because it's so often that people are like, well, how do I do that? Right? It's easy in a minute or 2 minutes to talk to somebody and say, well, thinking about this or create some boundaries. How? This is the how. You can just now hand this to someone and say, do this. And so I just want to say bravo to you. I personally am the biggest fangirl, and I think you're so cool. And I just want to hang out with you. And I can't wait to get to Venice one day and just like drink a juice with you outside, and like hang out and become better friends. But I'm proud of you, and I'm really excited for the world to have this gift. And I'm so grateful that I was able to hype you up right now, because
Yeah.
I'm your hype girl. Lewis House is your hype man, and we got your back. We got
Thank
your
you.
back. All
My
right.
you
So
for your support along the way, Gabby. Thank you so much. And obviously for your work and how you continue to show up in the world that helps create the space for people like myself to put out my own journey. So thank you.
go girl. Everybody keep repeating the book. Keep put that book up, book up, book up. Show that cover. How to do the work. How to do the work. Yeah, go girl.
All right, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll include all the information at the book at the end. So thank you, Gabby.
You can kick me out. You got to kick me
Oh,
out. I'll wait here until you.
thank you. All right. So last but absolutely not least, and thank you so much, Carlin. Carlin Purcell Murcieka. I'm so sorry if I'm saying the last part of your name. I'm going to ask you to pronounce it once I get you live. Carlin, you've probably seen her on my channel. She's been an incredible support, honestly, since day one of my journey here on Instagram. She is the CEO of KDPM Consulting Group, a certified emotional strategist and neuro life coach. Carlin is also the creator among many things, but the Success Journal, which I just saw an email pop in. I'm getting, it seems, my own copy, another copy of your Success Planner. So thank you, Carlin. I saw that come in. And first and foremost, Carlin, thank you for your patience with all of the glitching that has happened. How are you?
It's all part. I am super excited to celebrate you today. And you said something with Gabby that just stood out for me. Love is full acceptance. And when I read your book, I feel like it's a big love letter to the world. It's a huge love letter to the world. And I'm really just to echo what Gabby and Lois said, like, yeah, we're your hype peeps. We're your hype people. And, I tell people about your work, and I think my whole family and everybody knows about you now, because every time you do a post, I'm like, read, right? Because you don't talk about doing the work, you do the work. So if there is someone, you know, who is well equipped to write the book on how to do the work, like it's you. So thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for writing this big love letter to us all. And I remember the first time I found you and I met you, I think, what, like maybe you had 10,000. I'm trying to remember, but I remember it was way in the beginning.
Oh, in a second. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's and you have helped me so much too. I have been doing the work, but what I love about your work and how you present the work. And I actually wrote it down. You know, when I read, you know, the manuscript, there were three things that stood out to me the most. And, you know, one is access, how accessible your work is. You don't teach it from a place of, hey, I went to school for all those years and here are all those big academic words, which is a part of the journey, right? But you make it so accessible through language. And you make it accessible through the modeling of what you're teaching. You're not saying, hey, I'm teaching over here and you are the folks that are down here. You're like, no, we're on the journey together. And I think that's why I related to your work in the beginning, because I have been to therapists doing my work. It wasn't resonating. So I totally appreciated when you shared your perspective outside of the office, because it just really helped me to realize that, hey, A, I'm not alone, and B, so she went to school, she studied it, and it's not working for her. So, okay, so there's nothing wrong with me.
Seriously, that's the important part, and that's why I speak that, you know, and I share not only my disempowerment as a clinician, as a human. I felt stuck right alongside everyone. Here I was, the person, I can't even tell you, with 10 years of book knowledge around this topic, and yet I can't create that change in my life. So I appreciate you saying and acknowledging it was for me the embodiment of understanding why I was stuck and helping myself create change that then allowed me to expand this to the collective.
Oh yes, and the language being used and the fact that you talk about your story as well, you included in the two chapters that I mean, I loved every single chapter, but what really resonated with me was the emotional maturity one, because I think that's how I ended up finding you and following you, because a huge part of my work, and I really want to hear about, you know, I love also the inner child archetypes. And if you haven't gotten the book, get the book so that you can do the work, because I also love the practical steps, because you know me, I'm the how do I apply that so I don't repeat that story of struggle. I've been trying to create space between my, you know, meeting myself where I'm at, but doing so with grace and with love. And I want to hear from you also, because I was reading the inner child archetypes, and who showed up for you the most while writing this book? And I know our inner child is it's someone we reparent and we meet, you know, where they are with love and kindness. But what chapter was the hardest for you to write? And was there an inner child? Was it the caretaker or the underachiever? Which inner child showed up consistently throughout the journey? I
Absolutely.
want to hear.
That question. So I'll start at the end. My most active inner child archetype is definitely hands down the overachiever. I created that little persona in my childhood when I learned very early on that when I excelled, when I got the straight A's, as I quite naturally did at school, and when I excelled at sports, my particular sport of choice was softball, I had the presence and the awareness, or so I thought, of my family. My mom was there to support. I got the report card hung on the fridge. I would get money when I did well. So I felt good about myself in those moments. So very early on, I learned that my pathway to feeling good, to feeling more so connected, which was the most for me, was through achievement. And then my dad's joke quite early on to me has always been, and it picked up on this, Nicole, you're just going to be a lifetime student. And that really, I think, embodies, and in many ways, he wasn't wrong. In many ways, that is what I'm doing. And actually, I'm now what I hope I'm embodying the life of the teacher. I'm a student of life, and I'm sharing my journeys to others. Because that's how I believe we all learn and we all grow. But his joke, you're always going to be in school, a lifetime student, I think was really emblematic of that overachiever. So flash forward in time, I don't just erase that part of myself. That pull toward achievement is still very there. I hate this connects to me around disappointment. I don't like when I feel like I haven't achieved in my relationship in terms of showing up the way someone else imagined I imagined they needed me in that moment. So that's another form of achievement. And for book, it was constantly with that ego voice of, is this good enough? How will this translate? Will people understand? Even now, I'm in this weird space of, again, like I said when we began this, while I prophesize, don't rely on external validation, there's still a really big part of me that wants to know how people experience this book. And
Yeah.
achievement, like, are you going to say it's great? And what if you don't? You know, and me learning to make space for all of the different perceptions
Right.
might feel about the book. So for me, that
Yeah.
child archetype is very, very active, is still very much there. And part of my work now is to continue to expand in acceptance, I think the word you and I keep coming back to,
Yeah.
how I'm showing up in any given moment, without that over focus on performance, on achievement.
Yes. And that's why I love that you included a whole chapter on emotional maturity, because I think that, the increasing our appetite for discomfort will help us to better manage or meet, or I guess you can say accept our inner child, along the way. And I really love the story when you shared, with Holly, where, you're caught in that emotional cycle of anxiety, and she invited you to go to the beach and to go sit, and you're like, no, you chose to stay and to stick with that emotion, that energy, and you also blamed her for going and leaving you at home. So again, it again, I loved your vulnerability and your transparency, and also I love the reminder how staying in that emotional cycle is a choice. And even though sometimes it's hard for us to hear that, we actually have to do the work to get out of our way. So it's as much as you can give us the book and you can tell us, hey, here's the work, we still have to do the work. And you're still doing the work.
Yes, it's in those moments. And I'll even now, I make a joke of it. When I catch myself, online can be my best and worst friend at so many times, because for me, I know where to get the hits of the stress or the things that, right? And even now in real time, while I'm doing that, while I'm reading the comments that are going to stress me out, or the email that's going to stress me out, I'll say what I'm doing. I'll say, okay, I'm just taking a moment to stew in this stress for a minute, reminding myself that I do have,
Mm-hmm.
and that maybe 2 moments from now, I'll make a choice to put the phone down and to reboot. And that, I love that you picked up on that, because we can empower ourselves in life in general by gifting
Yeah.
ourselves with choice, by, breaking out. That's why I talk about consciousness and choice. You can still make that old choice. I still,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so sharing those moments in my book, and going back to a question I heard you ask me earlier, that was a difficult space for me too. Not those moments, those including my family. There's a lot I share of past painful moments within my family, that those who know me and are close to me might have heard, in different degrees of detail. Though to share this, right, with the world, with how many people that I
Yeah.
imagine are going to have their eyes on this, again, I had a lot come up around that. I had a lot of my old conditioning around, well, maybe I shouldn't share aspects of my life,
Yeah.
because of how it might affect those others involved. And again, this isn't, it's a balance between being sensitive and understanding that many of our stories of pain and of difficulty can be the light that empowers someone else into that space of choice. So I've had conversations
Yeah.
with family, expressing the gratitude. They're very aware of their presence, not only in my daily work on Instagram, but now in
Mm-hmm.
the book. And they're incredibly supportive. And I share my gratitude with them that they're able to hold the space, for me to speak about my life so openly to so many people, understanding that while it might be difficult, it's difficult for me even to share that.
Yeah.
There can be some healing on the other side of
Absolutely.
all, really.
Yeah, and I remember myself when I shared my traumatic, one of my stories that impacted, yes, family. It's very hard because you're carrying on the guilt of thinking, am I causing more harm? But it's also my story, my healing. I'm supposed to take charge of my healing. So I also have a choice in terms of how I want to move forward. And it was also great to see, your sister and the steps that she took as well to begin her own journey. Again, buy the book so that you can read all the stories, and also you can get the very practical tips in terms of how to do the work. One more thing that I want to ask you, before you go, two things actually. How are you dealing with your vulnerability hangover? Because now that you've written it, You went through that. You went
Is,
through that
is
first
it for my
initial.
hangover? I don't think so. I think this is the longest one I've ever had. I'll let you know when it goes away.
Oh, is there another wave of that vulnerability hangover? Because now that it's out, people are receiving it, people will be reading it. How are you managing that vulnerability hangover? Or have you had to do anything differently? Or are you upping your self-care? What does that look like?
Thank you, Carlin, for asking that. When I first started to share that I was writing a book, I had several other people that had written books in different levels of affiliation with me reach out with their experience. And they all kind of talked about this time right before and right around book launch. And it
Yeah.
was very individual what I heard of these others of how their time was, though
Mm-hmm.
they all kind of acknowledged emotions of different sorts. So I logged it, but I was like, I don't know, I talk every day about me. And the writing of the book, like I said, had the emotions come up as many times as I've had to edit the book. Every time I read it, the
Sure.
emotions come up, right? I haven't been in that process for a while. It's been off the print. I've had some time. And now I see what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying. Even leading up to, its release. Now it's only in handfuls of people's hands. There's a lot. I can't even describe, I don't even know if I could put words on the exact feelings. The only one that's coming to mind right now is overwhelm.
Yeah.
So I'm being sensitive to myself.
Yeah.
I have a very busy schedule in terms of podcasting and, getting books so I can package them and sign them and get them out and do all of the things. So I
Mm-hmm.
know, I love how this is coming all back full circle, that overachiever in me loves to put
Ah,
her head down, to make her endless to-do list, and to just keep herself focused on checking those boxes. Because I do have my whole team, really, thank you, whole team out there listening, has
yes.
so many things to do. And I know for me, the reason why I'm aware of that is I know I can distract myself. I can just
Mm,
become the soldier, the book release soldier who's not paying attention to how I really feel. So I'm
yeah.
trying to make as many moments where I have those points of check-in. And when I check in, like I said, emotionally, I can't really untangle yet. It's a combination of anticipation, excitement, fear, overwhelm, all of the things wrapped up, and how that's translating into my physical body. So to go back to my talk with Gabby,
Yes. Yes.
exhausted. I'm feeling a lot of tiredness, my sleep. I'm not
Mhm.
sleeping as well as I typically do. So I'm being careful. I'm making sure I'm still in bed and I'm still going through and taking care of myself in the moments. And
Yeah.
some of that care means not doing things. So
Yeah.
yesterday, gift of not having anything on my schedule. So I spent it laying on the beach, which is typically where I go to lay. The sun for me is very healing. So
Ah,
when
yeah.
of downtime during daylight hours, you'll see me there a lot. And when I'm there, I'm trying not to be in my mind, trying not to be online, obsessing over where the book is or isn't, and is anyone posting about it, and what are they saying, and just being at the beach for that moment.
Right. Yes. Being present and giving yourself permission to not not go back to the old again, because you're observing your patterns in a much heightened state as well, because now that the book is out, everything is going to be out, everyone will be watching, there'll be some more, I don't want to say, critics, but the critics will come out, right? And they will have a lot of sometimes not nice things to say. And what we do know is that your work it's changed my life. It has changed so many lives. And we all self-healers are here to not just champion you, but we also know that the work that you have put out, the language that you use, the accessibility. I love the Future Shelf Journal prompts in there as well. You are also given as the tools for us to do the work. And for that, I am so grateful to you. I'm grateful to the team for keeping you, aligned so that you can continue to show up. And before I go, I just wanted you to, is there one last thing that you want to share in your book that you want to read to close us off and to remind everyone to get the book? It will change your life. I am always constantly inspired by you. And I just want to say thank you and congratulations on this huge milestone.
Thank you. I think the thing I want to end with is actually a title, one of the earliest titles one of the earliest chapters in the book. And it's going to just reflect back the very amazing reminder that you offered, which is that we are our own best healers. We do, all of us, each and every one of us, regardless if you're listening and you're like, I don't know where this intuitive space is. I actually make terrible decisions in my life. I assure you, that way of being is a result of that conditioned self, likely again of very painful things that have happened, and that we all have that gifted space, that inner knowing. So when I say we're our own best healers, when you say self-healer, we can all heal. We're all saying the same thing, which is that for many of us, it is a journey of, as I say, peeling back those layers of conditioning of the onion and really then allowing that self to shine, that inner knowing. So I think I will always end on a statement around that idea, because I think so many of us don't believe that yet. And that's okay. There's many things that I believe to be true about myself that I've now turned on their head, and vice versa. So for me, it's really that empowerment. Even for someone listening, even if your subconscious is rolling your eyes, even just hearing someone like you or myself or Gabby or Lewis say, no, change is possible. And then
Yes.
you have each of us sharing how we've changed, in the many ways that we've transformed our life. Again, you might not believe it possible for you receiving this information right now, though I
Mm-hmm.
know so much is possible, and it really all is from within.
Ah, so beautifully said. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm super excited for the book. I will be buying it for my girls so we can dive in deeper, because what better message is there to say I love you with your friends than to go on the journey with them? So again, thank you so much. Excited for the big launch day. And I really hope that you continue to enjoy the journey as well. We love you and know that you are deeply loved and supported.
Carly, thank you. And I was joking earlier, I remember the moment you came into my Instagram world and my professional life, and it was 10,000 followers because you very graciously gifted me one of your amazing success planners for that very early giveaway. And actually, a little behind the scenes insider fun fact, the random receiver of that giveaway at that time, 10,000 followers, her name was Brittany. And those of you
Ah,
very familiar with my team, maybe in the circle, might be very familiar with a Brittany, and it is the same one. So I love how that interconnects.
oh,
You were
wow.
the gift of the planner. You gave an extra one. I gifted that to the winner, who at that point was a random human also doing the work, named Brittany. And she,
Wow.
so that's our interconnection, and how I'll know, Harlan, the moment that you came, you've actually now gifted me with a success planner. And from there moving forward, and I love your work, and I love you, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for sharing time, Carlin and Lewis and Gabby and everyone else. And I thank you all for being here. As always, my team. I've been seeing a lot of questions being answered. I'm going through really quickly to make sure I didn't miss anything. Thank you for spending time with me today and hearing and having a chat about the book. Anyone who has questions, it's called How to Do the Work. It's currently on pre-order, and it releases in 1 week today on Tuesday the 9th. What I mean when I say release is essentially it'll be sent out. So anyone who else has a pre-order, it will be dropping in your mailboxes. And Allie, thank you for joining here. I saw you in a comment earlier, and I had a big smile because those of you who have the book will meet an amazing member of the self-healer community named Allie. Those of you who follow me know that I'm always talking about Allie on and on because she shares her story in the book of amazing transformation, everything that we're talking about here today, it being possible. And Allie's walked an incredible journey of healing some pretty debilitating physical symptoms around the diagnosis with MS, starting with 1 glass of water. Now, like I said, don't believe me. Those of you who are reading the book can take a look at Allie's journey and then obviously join her on her Instagram account because she's still killing it. She's still showing up every day as the evolving being that she is. And she's just such an incredible story. And I share people like that. I share my own story, like we talked about today, in hopes of just, someone listening, someone hearing, someone taking one aspect of it, my past journey, my current journey, that resonates, and using that right for your own path forward. So as always, thank you all for spending your time here with me today. Thank you all for your support. Like I said when we began, it might have been the first attempt at jumping on this live. I just want to express such sincere gratitude for the whole community out there. If I didn't have your support, things would have been incredibly difficult along the way. So thank you for showing up, for receiving me and in my authenticity and receiving my story and really being such an integral part of this journey. I don't say it lightly when I say that I love each of you, and a big reason why I show up and why I will always continue to show up on social media platforms such as Instagram, with all that it is and all that it isn't these days for each of us, is for you, is to show up, because I know that in community we really can find true safe spaces, and really can begin to create the transformation that I think is necessary for us all in the collective. So thank you all for sharing your time with me today and your patience as we tried to get this running. I think this was still a valuable talk, so I'm hopeful that you guys all think so as well. Even though it wasn't us four on here together, maybe in some future time it will be. And I look forward to sharing space with you all again and sending love to wherever you are in the world.